Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 111. Welcome to the Champions League. It's good to be back. We had a little bit of a break, had about 2 weeks off, vacations, personal schedules. It's been hectic, but we're back. Today, you have myself, you have Bill, Oscar's jet lagged from coming back across the pond, and Kenny's still across the pond, and Jason had some personal matters to attend to, so you're stuck with the two of us. Bill, how are we?
Not too bad. Champions League, can't complain, right?
That's true. We did what we needed to do, and we have a nice financial cushion now, about 38 million, I believe it is. So can't complain. Today we have a lot to cover. We'll talk about the Benfica 3 Dynamo Kyiv game today, just a few hours ago. We'll talk about the start of the season. What are we thinking? How are we feeling? All wins so far under Roger Schmidt. Lots of goals, not too many conceded. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Champions League. We'll look at the pots, at least the preliminary pots of what we see today. There could be one or two changes tomorrow, depending on who qualifies. But we'll talk about that. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, let us know in the comments. Para a malta que nos esteja a ver em português, estejam à vontade de deixar os vossos comentários na caixa de comentários ou as vossas opiniões. Nós os dois percebemos português, por isso iremos abordar as vossas questões ou os vossos comentários. Hoje é o podcast em inglês, amanhã temos o podcast em português a partir das 21 horas, hora de Portugal, mas estejam à vontade de participar aqui na nossa conversa e, claro, não se esqueçam de partilhar aqui este nosso direto para ver se chegamos a mais benfiquistas. For those of you in English, if you could, give us a share, give us a like, so we can grow our audience a little bit more. Before we start, John de Cruz, good evening, John. Tiago, uma boa noite para ti. Jason is tuning in. He's not available to join us, but he is listening. So I want to see your comments and thoughts in the chat. An old McDonald's jersey, he says. That is a throwback for those of you that aren't watching and are listening. He's got the old yellow Telecel jersey on. I had one with Nuno Gomes on the back, but I donated it many years ago. It's not part of my current collection anymore. So Benfica 3, Dynamo Kyiv 0. We brought a 2-0 victory with us from Poland. Starting 11. I mean, no surprises, right? I mean, he's not changing anything really. Some people complain about that. Some people do not. We'll get into that. Vlaco Dimos in the back, Gilberto Otamendi, Morato, Grimaldo, Florentino, Enzo in the middle, João Mário, Rafa, Neres, and then Gonçalo Ramos up top. A game where we crushed it in the first half. I think we all expected second half to be the same. We didn't score any goals in the second half, but I thought overall it was a solid performance. I'll start. I guess I'll hand it over to you before I give my thoughts, and we can just kind of go back and forth. Bill, what were your thoughts in this game?
Yeah, I mean, the lineup I don't think was any surprise. I think it's clear that this is his Rogers 11. We'll tweak it as needed going forward, but I think with they had essentially a week off. It was no surprise that he didn't make any, in my opinion, that he didn't make any kind of rotations. My only thing is, I said in the group chat, I probably would have made a few changes earlier in the second half, but I mean, he made, I think it was like the 70th minute mark, he made 2 or 3. So he rotated the guys in, but I mean, that first half, that might have been the best 45 minutes we've seen so far this year. I mean, it was complete domination, controlled the game, turned it when they had to, but otherwise it was. I don't think Kyiv got anywhere near our goal in that first half. We literally just dominated, controlled it. They didn't like force anything, which I said in the group chat. It was like 20th minute mark, and I was like, we need to find one with like, we're dominating right now. We can't waste this kind of play. They stuck to the game plan and controlled it, took their time, and then once the first one went in, that was it. I mean, the floodgates opened after that first goal, and two more. I mean, one of them was their mistake. We
Yep.
took advantage of it, and then that was it. I think once we got that second goal, the tie was officially done. I don't think they had any shot once we got those early goals.
Yeah, I think the first goal, I think I told you in a chat between the two of us earlier in the day, right? Like once we score, if we score first, like not that there was any, I mean, with respect for Dynamo, obviously, but I don't think there was, I don't think anyone really doubted that we were going to progress, and I think that even Dynamo would have, thought it was going to be extremely difficult and known it was going to be extremely difficult. And I think that first goal was essentially like, the coffin was closed. It was just a matter of putting the nail in it. And I think that first goal, if there was any imagination of a hope for their players, right, I think that first goal clearly killed it. And you mentioned the first half. I have the stats here up from Goal Point. I like their comment. It says here, o primeiro gol tardou, mas a partir daí soltou o ketchup. 45 minutes, Benfica had 11 shots, 5 on net. Dynamo had 1 shot. It wasn't on net. I don't even remember what shot that was, to be honest with you.
I don't either.
89% pass efficiency. We had 6 corners against none. We had 14 actions in Dynamo's box. They had 3 in our box. 4 fouls committed, 5 for Dynamo, and 59% possession versus 41. It was a suffocating first half, right? And again, you can see that first goal, and then the second goal is a gift, right? And if anything, it just completely shatters the team. But I'm going to ask you and you touched on it briefly, there's been some criticism of the fact that he's not rotating the squad more, right? And as we said, right, they had a week. They postponed the weekend game against Passo Ferreira. They asked for it to be postponed. Passo Ferreira agreed to it. So they had a week essentially in between games, right? So you would imagine that there was no tired legs for today's game. And Roger Schmidt said it in the press conference, right? This isn't over yet, right? And that's one thing that I admire from him is kind of the humbleness and the professionalism. Whether he believes that or not is indifferent, right? But he just seems very, level-headed, down to earth. And I guess, what's your take on the fact that he isn't rotating a little bit more, right? The fact that maybe Abba's not coming in for Gilberto periodically or more frequently. Maybe, today would have been an opportunity to get a Weigl in and give Enzo or give Florentino a break, or even give Enzo a break, right? Do you see it as a negative, or do you see it as a positive? And the other side of it is people saying, it's early in the season, right? Like, let's continue to build the consistency with the consistent squad, start to continue to build routines. But obviously there's always 2 sides of an opinion, and some see it as, it's going to be a long season. Let's give some breaks now. Others say let's not give breaks and build that fluidity and that understanding now before it's too late. How do you look at it?
Yeah, and I mean, in a game like this, right, coming home with the 2-0 win there, like the tie's not over, right? Like, if Dynamo come and they score early in the first half, like, it's wide open still. Like, I agree with keeping your strongest 11 out there, ending it in the first half was essentially what we did, and then giving the opportunity to rotate. For me, I think it's too early to be doing these like rotations in games every week, right? Like, I think you still want to build on what they did in preseason, right? This is a new coach, a few new players. Like, they're still not clicking at 100%, right? Like, there's still a few things that any manager will want to change from week to week, but I don't think it's at the point yet where we have to worry about tired legs. Especially, I mean, this game they had a week off. Like, there was no reason why you should be rotating the squad when you had a week off between games. Yes, we're going to get to the point where we're playing every 3 days, and at that point, we're going to have to. You're going to get to a point where guys are going to get tired. You're going to have heavy legs. You don't want to burn out a squad too early. So you're going to have to rotate, but I don't think we're at that point yet. I think
But
the
do
way
you think
he's playing it,
right, like, I get not rotating, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? Not
Right.
necessarily of this opinion, but do you think, right, like a guy like Petar Musa, right? A guy like Yaremchuk, a guy like Ba, right? These guys coming in 70th minute, 75th minute, right? Do you think it's right? And we all played, right? Obviously, not at the professional level, at the amateur level, college level, but like, do you think it's harder for those guys to build that cohesion and that fluidity for 20 minutes at the end of a game when, the core of that squad already is maybe tired or is already of the mindset of, let's just see this game out, right? Like, whereas if you start a bot today, right? And obviously maybe not bot because Brazil sent people over to see Gilberto and David Neres, right? So it kind of would be a kick in the nuts for Gilberto if they didn't start him today. But just as an example, right? Or if you start a Yaremchuk or you start a Enrique Araújo in a game like this and give Gonçalo Ramos a break, right? He's one of the guys that runs the most in the squad, right? So maybe, okay, we're up 2-0. Let's give him a break. If we need him, we can throw him in the second half, right? And it allows those guys to build that fluidity and that understanding when the rest of the team is fresh, right? Where the mindset is let's go for it, opposed to they come in when the mindset more often than not is let's see it out. Let's play safe, right? And obviously Benfica doesn't sit back under Roger Schmidt, but like, do you think there's a benefit there of the guys coming off the bench being able to build that mindset with fresher legs opposed to in the 70th minute?
Yeah, I mean, like, you can definitely see that side of the argument, right? Like when you're coming on in the 70th minute, at any point when you're coming on a sub, it's very hard for you to come into the game and have an impact right away, right?
Yeah.
There's some time that takes for you to kind of build into the game. Very rarely do you see a sub come on and kind of come right into the game, and it looks like he's playing the entire time. So yeah, it's going to hinder their chemistry with the players that are out there. But again, when it comes down to it, and it's freaking checking time and hardest game of the season come up, who's going to be out there? We're not going to have Yaremchuk up top the way it's looking. Right? Ramos looks like the striker to play up top. You want those players in form, like the chemistry between your preferred 11 at a max, ready to go. And when those games come, they're ready to go. And you don't have to kind of worry about, well, this guy needs to play a little bit because he needs to build chemistry because we might need him. Like, yeah, you might, but you might not, right? We could go through a season where hopefully, knock on wood, we don't have any major injuries and we have to backfill guys, right? Well, hopefully, we're going through the season where for the majority of the games, this 11 is our 11 going out every week.
Yeah, no, and again, I see both sides of the argument. I know that I had mentioned it like in preseason, right, where Yaremchuk was coming in the second half of some of those preseason games, and the team entirely was rotated, right? So it's like you're playing with kind of that second line of
Yeah.
players, which kind of ties into Dave's comment. And Dave, shout out to you. Thanks for checking us out. Is there a significant quality drop from the bench, from their bench? Right. And I think there is clearly, which kind of ties into my argument, right? Like when you're coming in as a sub, right? Not so much now, but more in preseason, right? Where you're rotating 5, 6, 7 guys. But then again, I think it adds more value to those other guys that are going to be regulars, right? Your Yaremchuks, your Weigels for if, he stays, your Alexander Ba, right? Like, not counting the Chiquinhos and the Diogus, right? Those guys are going to be fringe players that come in for garbage time or when you try to mix up the team. But I think it just adds more to the argument of like, the quality is significantly different, right? And if when you're getting your 20 minutes, it's with maybe a little bit lesser quality around you and in cleanup time at the end of the game, right? Like it makes it difficult. But I mean, do you agree with, or I guess, how would you answer Dave's question here? I think the answer is unanimous here in terms of the quality drop off.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I mean, look at the guys that came
when
in.
you yeah, you're looking at the bench, right? I think there's a handful of players that you could say, yeah, these guys could probably start, right, and fill in and give you quality minutes. But I mean, you have Weigel, Yaremchuk, Ba, we've seen very good glimpses of him in Arujo, right? Other than that, you're looking at it. I mean, Vertonghen,
Diogo scored the worldie.
I mean, the thing is with him, he'll score unbelievable goals from time to time,
but he's not consistent.
It's the consistency. There is a drop off from the bench. I mean, unless you're like City and like Real and Bayern, like typically have a drop off from the quality of your starting 11 to your bench. So it's not. I mean, that's not anything new. But yeah, I think, especially with the new manager, right? He wants to find his squad. It looks like he's found his preferred 11, right? And it's on him to pick and choose when to make rotations. But I just think it's too early to be criticizing the fact that we haven't rotated the squads yet. Like, and I'm one that had called, I think it was 2 games ago for the league, for Ba to start, because we've seen glimpses of when Ba comes in, he's been impactful from time to time. But again, I think it's too early to be asking for 1 or 2 changes in the 11 every game. Like, I don't think it makes sense. I think at this point of the season, he needs to build the chemistry of the strong 11. And going forward, those are the players you want kind of playing well together. So when we get into the tough part of their schedule, then we have those players ready to go. And yeah, it sucks for the guys on the bench because they're getting garbage time minutes. But I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of the deal when you're on the bench, right? When you come in, it sucks, but you have to. The time you get is the time you're going to get to prove your worth and kind of show the manager, hey, I'm here, I'm ready. Whenever you need me, kind of, I'm here to perform.
But I think that's the important piece, right? Is like having that positive vibe in the locker room, right? And I don't know, for anyone who watched the game on 11 Sports, as the team came out for warmups, they were saying how even the players that were not in the starting 11 were in good spirits. They were joking around with the players that were in the starting 11. Chiquinho even joked around and tried to run in with the group that was in the starting 11 to warm up, right? So like you said, right, like even though you're not a starter, it's important to know what your role is and keep that positive mindset, because if not, it can unravel quickly, right? Looking at the squad, right, I think everyone on the bench knows their role. Maybe like a Yaremchuk could get frustrated, right? Because he's a big status when it comes to international football with Ukraine. He came with a high expectation, but unfortunately for him, Gonçalo Ramos is in good form right now, right? But on the other side of that, it should give him that extra motivation, right? That competitiveness, which we're seeing with Gilberto and Ba, right? Gilberto spoke about it last game, right? Like, Ba's a great player. He pushes me more, I push him more, right? And we haven't had that in a long time, of having various positions where there's good quality on the field and off the field. And it forces you, like, I can't have a slip up. I can't have a bad game, because I know at any moment there's a guy behind me that's going to come in, right? Guy like Grimaldo, for years, right? He hasn't really had any competitiveness there, right? So he could have a good game, he could have a bad game, but he knew he was always going to start, right? And I think we're starting to see now that that's not going to be the case going forward. Obviously, you can't have that across all positions, right? Because we're not a Manchester City or we're not a PSG. But having that depth in certain areas, I think, is important. I just want to touch on a couple comments here. Dave said they'll have to play in the next 2 months. There's a compressed group stage scheduled due to the World Cup. Taça League is also November during the World Cup. Maybe they can hold out until then. I do think that Benfica will sign, another 2 or 3 guys, Dave. I know that the Norwegian player from Feyenoord was in the stadium today. There was pictures of him in the press box, or one of the I don't know, one of the suites, if however you want to call it. He was there. Arnis, I think, is his name. I have to figure out how to pronounce his name. Right. So that's a midfielder that's going to give us some significant help. I know that the rumor is that we're going to sign 1 or 2 more players. There's talk about Oriano from Vélez Sarsfield, young player, not to be a starter, but a young player with a high ceiling that could potentially be another player to add to the bench and give us some depth there. And then, Ricardo Horta, Dave says, as an outsider, I'm curious to see how this plays out. And Dave, I'll actually have a question for you in a little bit about Braga. Justin Portela says here, does Ricardo Duarte have a starting spot in this team right now, right? And looking at how we played today, right, that could be one of our better performances all around this season, right? But when you look at the starting 11 right here, right, which is, it seems to be our core, right? Obviously, maybe Morato Otamendi changed depending on how the season plays out. Lucas Verissimo is even form. But looking at how this formation is, or the starting 11 is today, and curious what you guys in the chat think, does Ricardo Duarte have a spot in this starting 11? And if I look at it, I'm immediately going straight to João Mario's spot. But, and I had in my notes here for us to discuss, and we're going to jump around here because there's only two of us, right? So add a little bit of dynamic here, and we'll take on your questions as they come through, and we'll jump around. But I immediately think João Mario's spot, right? But given how he started the season, he started off extremely well. And it's funny because last season, he towards the end, he was like not even an option. I mean, we talked about it various times where he was on the bench. He didn't even come in, right? I mean, there were some changes. There were some subs that like Paulo Bernardo came in, Tarat came in, right? And like you guys, João Mario sitting on the bench and he didn't come in, right? So like he went from not being an option to all of a sudden playing, extremely well. Again, it's early in the season, but for my perspective, that's the position that I immediately look at because Neres isn't coming out. Rafa's not coming out. Right. So he's really the one that stands out. Do you see, like, I'm assuming you're going to agree with me because I don't see where else you pick out someone. But even with João Mario, do you think that Ricardo Duarte comes in and let's put aside, right, like he needs to, earn his spot, et cetera, right? Like if it's day one, you're given this lineup and Ricardo Duarte's in it, does he go into your starting 11? Who do you take out?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said it on here multiple times, like that João Mario in that, well, what looks on paper like the number 10 spot, but he isn't number 10 because Rafa is pinched in playing in that role. But I don't, the way João Mario's playing right now, I don't see Horta fitting in or taking this spot, right? I think João Mario offers you, I think Horta offers more forward, but I think João Mario offers you more kind of defensively, winning the ball back. He's more of a box-to-box than Horta is. Horta is, he's going to give you more going forward. But I think we have, with Rafa and Neres, I think they give us plenty going forward. Ramos is playing well. I think João Mario offers that cover because essentially you're letting Rafa roam around the field and kind of do whatever he wants positionally, and João Mario's covering that left flank a lot. And I think that is what is making this system work. And when we go forward, we're very deadly because Rafa and Neres have that freedom to kind of cut in, make the runs they want to make, and they don't have to worry about their position kind of having to get back, right? They don't have to worry about that defensive rate as much because they have the cover of Mario, Florentino, and Enzo.
But do you think that if an Horta comes in, that Rafa then gets pushed out wide, right? And now you have two speed demons on the wings, opposed to Rafa operating more in a central role because, let's be honest, right? Like he's probably, of the two, between João Mario and Rafa, and in a team that transitions quickly, right? When you're coming out from your back, you want Rafa to be carrying the ball up the pitch. You wanted to be Neres to be carrying the ball up the pitch, opposed to, João Mario, because sure, he can pick a pass, but he lacks that aggressiveness. He doesn't have the speed, right? He doesn't have that ability to just go at defenders. But I'm assuming that if a Ricardo Duarte does come in, I'm going to assume Rafa goes out wide again, and Ricardo Duarte gives you the ability to play across any of those three positions in the front, right? Like he can play on the right, he can play on the left, he can play in the middle. Can João Mario play across the three? Yeah. Is he going to be as efficient across the three? Probably not, right? And it's interesting to see that a player of his pace is capable of being so productive out there. And I know he played there for Sporting with Jorge Jesus, but I think it's kudos to the manager and the staff, right, to be able to figure out like who the hell would have thought like let's play Rafa as a central position as a number 10 and we'll play, of three that are playing across the front, the slowest one on the wing, right?
Yeah.
And like interchanging positions. So, I mean, kudos to them. But I do think that if Ricardo Huerta does come in, I think it's a similar situation with like what we talked about with Ba, where over time, I think he eventually ends up being a regular, maybe not so much at the start. But I think with him coming in, it potentially changes the formation. I'd be surprised if he played Ricardo Huerta out wide and kept Rafa central, right? I don't know what's going through their mind, but that's a potential. I know that Tiago says here, falam também Ludovic Blas. He's a number 10 from, I believe it's Nantes in Liga. That's another young player that they've rumored today as a potential target for Benfica. Again, there's a week left. There's going to be a lot of rumors. There's going to be a lot of speculation. I think the fact that Benfica confirmed their place among Europe's elite today, and that paycheck that we get, not just from Tiago says from Nens. That's what I thought. Not just from making it into the Champions League, but then you have ticketing, you have TV broadcasting money, you have if you win. Right. So there's a lot that plays into this. I think that there's going to be another 2 or 3 signings before the end of the season or before the end of the transfer window, naturally, because, right, we have that cushion from a financial perspective. Let me just, before we do MVPs of this game, SLBES, welcome back. He says, I wouldn't say that João Mario has a spot secured. I would say, and again, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. If you look at this 11 here, Bill, I would be willing to say that there are maybe half of these players have their spots secured. I would say a David Neres, a Rafa, an Enzo, Grimaldo, and probably Vlaco Dimos. And I say that because, right, Ba at any point can jump into Gilberto's spot. Florentino now has contention with that Norwegian player, Weigl, if he stays. Gonçalo Ramos, yes, he's in good form, but at any point in time, he has a Yaremchuk on the bench. He has a Enrique Araújo on the bench. Morato and Otamendi, again, we've talked about it, right? We have Verissimo, we have João Vitor, right? Guys like Rafa Neres, we don't have a substitute for them at that level. Grimaldo, we still haven't seen Ristic. Right? So I think I would say that half of this squad, or 5 or 6, have a spot secured. Do you see it differently?
No, I think that's about right. I mean, like a few guys are saying Otamendi. I agree with that. I think Otamendi is one of the first easy names right on your team sheet first off the bat. Like, I think he's the heart of that defense. He brings an intensity that I don't think anyone else on the team brings. Morata's been playing well, but we do have other options. But I agree. I think Neres, Rafa, Enzo, Grimaldo. I mean, Vlaco Dimos has been playing well, but you keep hearing those rumors of Ron.
He might leave.
What's that guy? Some guy from the German league, I think. I can't remember his name now. But there's rumors of Roger wanting another keeper. But I think for me, Otamendi's been playing well. I don't see why you would want to.
No, I agree.
Bring in another keeper unless it's for depth, right? Unless you're going to get rid of Helton, late. I don't see why you would bring in another keeper.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's rumors. Leicester's another one that's been rumored to be after him. I think that if
you too.
Yeah, I saw Man U recently. I think that if the money's right, I think they'll pull the trigger, and I think that they have someone on the back burner, knowing that they could, for a decent price, they'll be able to get them. I know that they talked about the guy in Turkey. I can't remember what team he's on. Quickly, some of these comments. Sheik Marcelino says Horta is not a significant upgrade to João Mario. It all depends on how much he will cost. I mean, in terms of cost, it sounds like 15 million plus someone else is what keeps coming up in the press. Time will tell. We play 3 attacking midfielders and wingers, whatever you call it, but we don't have any bench. That's from SLBES. Mark Correa. Ricardo Horta seems to me just another case of us wanting a guy that was formado no Benfica. And don't get me wrong, he's good, but if it ain't broke, don't don't fuck with it.
I 100% agree with that last piece.
That's true.
But
And I
right
was just
now,
gonna
like
ask.
even if he comes, right? If he comes and we get him in, like why try to like all of a sudden change the formation and change things up just to fit him in, right? Like shit's not broken, it's fucking working. Like we're
I
playing
get that,
well.
but like we don't know that they're gonna change the formation, right? Like
Right, but we just but
I'm
we're sitting
imagining that
here
they're
and
having conversations in the background of like, if we get him, he's plug and play here, right? But again,
right.
like a new player that didn't have preseason, right, could potentially break that cohesion and that fluidity, right? Like again,
We saw it with Weigl. Oh,
correct. And we
apparently
don't
that's what
know.
happened.
Yeah, that's the rumor. But again, we don't know how that plays out, right? And that can happen with anyone. But I do
Yep.
get that, right? Like if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? But I don't I see. I agree with Mark in saying, right, he's a player from the Seychelles. He's a player from our youth, and it would be good to have him back. And again, us Benfica fans are so passionate about our youth and having
We
our
love our
youth
Seychelles
players
boys.
in our squad. And I get it, but again, if it doesn't fit, right, then it doesn't fit. Do I think Ricardo Duarte would be a good addition to the squad? Of course, right? Like even if he's not a starter straight away, he gives us incredible depth. The guy that's proven in the Portuguese league. I think he's only 27 or 28. Right. And he understands the league, he understands the club and the expectations. So I think there's obviously a lot of benefit there. But I agree, right? Like if it's not broken, don't fix it. But I think it's more of the sense of like we then just add to that depth that we continue to look for, and that many people have commented here in the chat. Who do we have that can replace any of those three without losing quality? Again, right? Like right now, we don't have good depth. We don't have quality wingers that could even get close to a Rafa or the Vidners, right? Like that's the reality of it. Are we going to be able to get someone that's close to that quality? Probably not, right? Like it's going to cost you a little bit, right?
Yep.
Jay says Rafa played that 10 position before, and it didn't work. Pretty sure of that. He may have played there a few times with George Jesus, if I'm not mistaken. And again, but like it all comes down to the system, right? Like if that system doesn't
Right.
fit you playing it, right? Like Rafa's not a guy. He's clumsy with his feet, right? His decision making is not good, right? And just think about the positions that he gets himself into, a lot of them on his own, and then his decision is terrible, right? Like
Today,
today, 5 minutes in, he six yards out, he could shoot and he passes it. Like, what the hell were you thinking? Right. But that's what you get with him, right? Like he'll pull a rabbit out of a hat and then he'll completely leave you dumbfounded as what the hell he decided to do. SLBS says also nobody on the bench to replace Enzo. Currently we have Weigl and now the Norwegian kid, Arnes. He seems to be more of an Enzo type player than necessarily a Tino. But he looks to be capable of playing a 6 and an 8. So, and he has an incredible motor. His stamina and his ability to just get up and down the field is incredible from what I've seen. Obviously, everyone looks good on YouTube. Roberto looks good on YouTube, and the list goes on of
Cebolinha looked great on fucking YouTube.
who looks good on YouTube. But yeah, he looks. I think with him now, I think we have a good replacement for Enzo or Tino. Do we have one for both? Again, Weigel's most likely going to leave, so that's a good shout there. Jay says I'd say Arta takes Joe Mario's spot eventually. I don't disagree with that. Ivo Pino, thanks for checking us out. He says the keeper is Kovacevic from Rakow in Poland. That's who it is. I think he was voted like best goalkeeper in the league last season, and I think he's Turkish international, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Justin says SLB says NOD cannot leave. He needs to stay. It would be good, right, to have a keeper that knows the system and not change it, in the season. Justin Portela says, do you think Benfica made the right decision by selling Jota, considering his form in the Scottish League and our lack of wingers? Before you answer that question, let's close this off here and give me your MVP for today.
It was Otamendi got voted on this app, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I think
has him at 8.6.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played well, really well. I think those are the easy ones. I thought I'm going to give it to Grimaldo. I think Grimaldo played unbelievable today. This season, I'm actually a little surprised of how well he's been playing this season, especially coming off of all the kind of drama at the end of last season, all the rumors in the offseason. He's come in hasn't said much, just worked his tail off, showing everyone that he is our best left back, for better
Our
or
only
worse.
left back.
We don't really have any other options, but
well, we have one. We just haven't seen him yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen him yet. I mean, we saw today that free kick. He's deadly from set pieces. So I'll give it to Grimaldo.
Okay, I'm gonna go with David Neres. I mean, we talked about it earlier. He just brings a completely different dynamic. He's like that guy that, a lot of players that, are flashy and technical sometimes aren't able to translate that into professional football because, again, they're too flashy or they're too technical, right? And they just
try
get
to do
lost
too
in
much.
it. Correct.
Yep.
And he seems like a good mix of both, right? Like he's confident, he's quick, he's got good feet. He had a couple of moments today and he did it last week as well, where like he's got the ball on his right foot and everyone knows he's left footed, but like he still is able to get that ball onto his left and completely leaves them dumbfounded, right? Like he's got a left foot, but he's just so tricky and he can go to the end line with his right. He can cut in with his left. And it just makes it incredibly difficult to defend, right? A 2-footed player that's comfortable going on both sides. But then when you add the speed and his technical ability, like, Jesus, take the wheel. I don't know what the hell you're going to do. It's basically a guessing game at that point. Like, which way is he going to go? And I'm going to guess right. I'm going to go right. If he goes right, great. If he goes left, I'm going to look like an asshole, but it is what it is.
The way he plays, this is give a lot of Benfica fans little chubbies, but the way this guy plays reminds me of like a Gaetan, right? Like, and a Di Maria, like the way he plays, it's so fluid with him. You have no clue which way he's going to go. He's unafraid to try things. Like, I think Mark Correa brought up the bike, right? Like, how many guys would have tried to take that touch and pull the bike? Like, I don't know, a lot of them on the team, right? Most of the guys would probably try to settle it and look for a layoff back to get a clear shot. No, this guy takes that touch. It's a heavy touch, but it brings it up, and he just, you know what, I'm going for it. And
that would have been a sweet goal.
It's great to watch. I mean, that first preseason game was rough, and I mean, he had some rust. He was off for a while, but it looks like he's kind of back into his old form, and he's got all the confidence in the world.
Unfortunately, I think he's going to be one of those that's not with us for very long. All right, so we close out this Dynamo game. Let me just run through these comments. There's a lot of them in here. So SLBS says we're not getting a better keeper that we could afford. Jota and Gonçalo are at the same level. He would tear it up in Scotland as well. Got to go, guys. But last thought, Ned's bicycle kick take was almost orgasmic. Crack. Thanks for tuning in, Mark. Luis, it's late over there. Carrega Benfica had a gig at 9, so I couldn't watch the game, but I liked the highlights and the goals and couldn't go to sleep before celebrating here with you guys. Somos enormes. Um abraço para ti, Luis. Red Baron and Ivo corrected me. Kovacevic is Bosnian. Yes, I remember seeing the highlights of him in the Bosnian national team. I stand corrected, Bosnian. I don't know why I said Turkey. Maybe we were linked with another goalie in the Turkish league, I want to say. Let's see, what else do we got here? Jason says Neres is the MVP. SLBS, here's a hot take. Gonçalves is at the same level as Jota. And we'll take that up in this conversation. Ned says, Chico Marcelino says, Ned reminds me of Povarski. SLBS says, Ned is with Salvio.
I mean, Neres is early, so for me, it's like that's a hard take because they were both great, but for me, it's Salvio. I mean,
Salvio did it for longer,
right? But that's the thing. Like, and like when he came, like he embraced the club, like his whole he loved being.
But don't look at that. Look at just like skill. I think they're two different players.
It's hard to do it. Like when you say, right, when you go this player, this player, you always like you think of the player that's been at Benfica, and you're like, damn, this guy was here longer. Like, loved the club, did it all. Like, and he went through all those, like breaking his arm before like winning the league, breaking his leg. Like he went through a lot of shit. I mean, skill wise, I think Neres is a better player, but when you take everything into account, I think
Salvio is going to give you more on and off the ball than Neres will.
Yeah.
He's going to defend. He's going to fucking get stuck in. Sheik Mercedes says Salvi was a goal scorer winger. He was. Again, they're two different players. If I had to choose between the two, I would probably have to pick Salvi just because he gives you more on both sides of the ball. But I think overall, Neres is a better player, I would say. And Red Baron says Kakir is the Turkish goalkeeper. I knew I wasn't going crazy. I knew there was a guy that there was rumors of in Turkey. So I'm going to give you this question just because, again, there's only two of us and we have an agenda, but we're going to rip that agenda up and we're going to give the people what they want and answer their questions because that's what they're here for. Justin Portela says, do you think Benfica made the right decision by selling Jota considering his form in the Scottish League and our lack of wingers? What do you think about that?
Would I have liked to see him stay? Yes. Right. I think I said it at the end of last season. I think Jota was one of those players that I said, I think he should stay, go through the preseason. I think what he did last year at Celtic, like he deserved the opportunity to stay and fight for a spot. Do I think he would have been a starter? No. Do I think he could have been the depth off the bench? Potentially. But I also take what he did in the Scottish League with a grain of salt. Like it's the Scottish League, right? Outside of Celtic and Rangers, like, do you know any other fucking teams?
I know a few, like Hibernian and Hearts, Kilmarnock or something, right? But like again, you don't know any players from those teams.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the drop off from those two teams to everyone else is massive. Like whoever wins the Scottish League and comes second place are like miles ahead of everyone else. Like the only time you're typically going to drop points is when Celtic and Rangers play each other, and there's the potential to drop points. Outside of that, like it's I mean, our friends use this term all the time, a farmers league. Like it is not like it's not a competitive league. So you have to take what he's doing with a grain of salt. Would I have liked to see him stay? Yeah, I think he went out on loan. He showed what he could do. He played well. He performed. I think he deserved the opportunity to stay for the preseason, fight for a spot. If it didn't work out, then he could have sold him, put him on loan, whatever. But again, getting $7.5 million for a guy that never really performed here, I think it's not a bad deal. But
I mean, he didn't have many legitimate chances either.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest with that. It's tough, right? And Red Baron says Scottish League fits him. I'm not a big fan of him. SLBS says Jota wouldn't have been a starter. He's a big fish in a little pond. And we kept his 25% on a future sale of his, right? So I think it was 6.5 million euros or whatever the case may be. And I agree with you, right? Like, again, like let's turn this question on its head, right? Like, let's say Jota is not a player from the Seychelles, right? Like, is anyone even having this conversation? Probably not, right? And I think,
I don't think his stats from last year were like crazy. I think we looked it up. Like he played well for like a good couple.
But he didn't get like. I think like his average, when you averaged out all the minutes played, it was like 15 or 20 minutes total, right? And he didn't always play that many minutes successively. Yeah, successfully. I think I'm using that word correctly. But again, I don't think that we have this conversation if he's not a Seychelles player. I really don't. Like, for me, I think he looked good in certain phases or many phases of, the lower levels. But as we've seen, right, like the lower levels in the A team are completely different. And I hope I'm wrong for his sake, right? Because it would be good to have another player, Portuguese player, to be successful outside of the country and to be able to kind of carry that torch. But I think he's going to be one of those players where, he fits in a Scottish league. He fits in, maybe on, a mid-table team in, the Netherlands. But I honestly don't see him being that top player that maybe a lot of Benfica fans think he can be because of what he's doing today at Celtic. I really don't see it. Again, I'm not a professional scout. I don't watch his practices. I don't watch the Scottish League, right? I'm just going off of highlights and things that I see that he's doing there. But I honestly am strongly of the opinion that I don't think he will be more than just another average player. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I would love to be in his shoes and be an average player playing in, whatever professional league it is and making decent money. But I personally don't see it. And again, it's not a knock to him. But and again, I could be wrong. Hopefully I am. Jay says, for a 21-year-old who went to a different country, gained a spot in the starting 11 and balled out, he's still a kid. He is still a kid, right? And he still's got a lot to learn. It's just a matter of, is he going to be able to turn that into something bigger on a different level, right? Because I get that Celtic Park is, a daunting place to play, but he's on the home side, right? When you start to put on a jersey of another team that's going to be a little bit more weight, a little bit more expectation, right? Celtic's always going to be battling for the top 2 spots, right? For the most part, right? I think it just brings a different responsibility, different weight. Again, he's young, like Jay says, he's 21. So, he's got a huge opportunity to grow. Time will tell. I mean, again, he's still got plenty of time to come back if he really flourishes. So we'll see. I think it's fair to say he also accepted a new contract to stay there. He didn't want to go back to SLB. Yeah, I mean, Benfica could have also offered. I think if Benfica offered him an opportunity to stay, I think he would have stayed, right? And at least some assurance that he was going to play. But clearly, that wasn't the case, right? So in his shoes, I think he did the right thing. He's 21 years old. He's got to play, right? He needs to play regularly if he wants to improve. And, at Celtic, a world-renowned club, gives him that opportunity to be a regular. And fortunately for him, he's doing well. That's only going to be a benefit to him, right? And the fact that we have 25% buyback or 25% on his next purchase, right? It's a win-win for both of us, I think. This is the first successful loan in a subpar league. Yes, he was on loan and now he's gone for good. He deserved the chance. Jay says he deserved the chance to play for a spot. We wouldn't be going after Arta because I think Jota was ready to take another step like Tino. Tino came back and earned a spot in the 11 now. Jota probably wouldn't start, but if he would be on Shomariu's tail. I saw you shaking your head. I don't agree with that.
I don't agree. I think we wouldn't be after Arta. Arta was on our list no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter who was coming back from loans. I think Arta was a player that we had on our list from the start. I mean, the rumors of us negotiating with Arta started at the fucking beginning of the transfer window, or even before it. It's just fucking
last season.
The way it's played out, it's just been unreal. But I don't agree with that. I think the plan, has always been Arta is on the list. Go after him, try to get him. But I do agree with the beginning. I think what he did last year, I think he should have stayed at least for the preseason, and then they could have figured it out. But the fact that he's not here, I'm not complaining about it. And I agree with what you had to say about if this wasn't a player from the Seychelles, would we be talking about this? No. I mean,
I don't think so.
Us as Benfica fans, we love the Seychelles, right? Any kid coming through, we're gonna think he's next and it doesn't happen, right? Like when these players come through, like it's the generational players, right? Like, yeah, you're gonna find a couple players that are good, but more often than not, like kids that are coming through the Seychelles, you're gonna have maybe 1 or 2 from every age group that are gonna make it onto the A team. Like you're not gonna go through like what Barca went through and you get 8 or 9. Like that is just like absurd. Like that happens once in a lifetime. I don't think anyone can expect that. And us as fans, yeah, we love that aura of, oh, he came through the Seychelles and he's one of us. And yeah, like it's nice. It's a great fucking story, but we're not gonna.
It's not realistic.
We're not gonna. No, and we're not gonna like give him something just because he's a Seychelles kid. Like you have to fucking earn it. Like at the end of the day, like they're like the teams, they're building a team to win the league, right? And we're not just going to give someone a spot on the roster just because they're a Seychelles kid. Like you're going to build the strongest team, and if they didn't think he could come back and do something, then I mean, more power to them. I trust them, right? Like more often than not, Benfica is right when they let these players go. Like how many Seychelles kids have left and come back to bite us in the ass? Like this, yeah, you can point to Bernardo Silva and João Cancelos, but of the thousands that have come through the Seychelles, two right off the top of the head, like that's pretty good fucking odds if you're asking me. Like if we lose two great players of all the thousands that have come through the Seychelles, like okay, it sucks losing those two players. I would love to see Bernardo and João Cancelo play for Benfica longer and on the A team. But if you're telling me we're going to lose two out of the thousands that go through, like it's a pretty good job that the scout department's doing and the team's doing.
Exactly. And Dave says Celtics attacking pair Jota and the former player from Marito Mieda kind of says enough. Again, like I think, and again, no disrespect to the Scottish League, to the Scottish player. Like, again, I don't watch it enough to have an opinion. But if you asked 100 football fans across the globe, right, if you ask them to rank leagues in Europe from 1 to 7, Scotland's probably not in that 7, right? If you went 1 to 10, Scotland probably isn't in 1 to 10 50% of the time, right? Like that's just a reality of it. And again, it's no disrespect to them. Celtic's a powerhouse in Scotland. They have a huge name across Europe. But it's just a different league. And not to say that Scotland's league is much better than the Portuguese league, or Portuguese league is much better than the Scottish league, right? The Portuguese league has still a lot to improve, but I just think it's a completely different level, right? There's going to be more internationals in the Portuguese league than there are most likely going to be in the Scottish league. Jay says, I 100% disagree with you. I still think he has potential to be great. I wouldn't expect you to say anything else, Jason. One of our most promising players to come to Seychelles. He's 23. That makes a difference. Red Baron says, yeah, Jason, he's 23, not 21. Come on. Joaquin says, good win. I just think that Ba needs to start games sooner than later. Gilberto's okay, but Ba will give the team more options. Listen, Joaquin, don't be talking about Gilberto Carlos because he's going to be on the national team in Qatar representing the Canarinha. All right, so
he's
don't be
running that flank, okay?
Yeah, he's gonna be like the new Cafu in Qatar in that heat. Elder Andrade, Benfica needs Horta and another winger. Yes, we do need another winger. Jay says you guys didn't think Tino would come back either. We didn't. And fortunately, given Roger Schmidt's style, he fit in, right? He's a mobile player. He's got some pace to him, something Weigl doesn't have. He's got a little bit more intensity, and it worked out for him perfectly. If Roger Schmidt wasn't the chosen coach, I don't think Tino would be a starter, at least. Maybe he'd be on the bench, but I don't think he'd be a starter. Tiago referring to Andrea Horta or Ricardo Horta, Cavani 2.0. It feels like
it might be worse.
Yeah,
this might be worse.
Yeah, just I feel like there's more
like
rumor
Cavani
about it.
is like a world-class player, right?
Yeah.
Like when you look, like, yeah, we would have loved to have him in Benfica, but when you look at it, Benfica, Man U, like, yeah, Man U shit at the moment, but it's like it's still Man U, right? Like it's not like what he's going to make in Man U. No chance Benfica was going to be able to pay. With Ricardo Horta, like Braga Benfica, like it's one of those. I think this is worse.
I agree. Red Baron says, Larguem o Horta e tragam mais o Vitinha. He's going to go for a lot of money. Dave, there's a question for you. How much do you think Vitinha is worth? And do you think he's gone after this season? I know you're a Braga fan. And my other question to you is, do you think Braga is capable of fighting for third place? I think that Braga, and again, this is early. This is on the internet, so it's out there in the world and it's not going away. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I hope Paul's not watching because he's going to text me. He's going to get pissed off. But I'm going to say that Braga finishes third and Sporting finishes fourth, unless Sporting goes and gets some reinforcements. I think they lost too many good players and they haven't replaced them with adequate players. But my question to you is, where do you think Braga finishes? I think they've looked good so far, which I didn't think was going to happen under Artur Jorge. But they do look pretty good so far. Justin, coming in hot with all these good questions. He's taking us all over the map. We're not even able to focus on our agenda. When Lucas Veríssimo comes back and is fully fit to start, how fast does Morato or whoever is alongside Otamendi get dropped? What do you think, Bill?
That's a good question. I mean, Veríssimo showed so much in this last year until he got hurt. It's hard. It's one of those things where like it's not broken. Like we've conceded 2 goals in
I
7
have the
games.
stats here. So official games, we have 6 wins and 17 goals scored, 2 goals against, 4 clean
Yeah,
sheets. 5
like
wins in 5 non-official games, 17 goals scored, 5 goals against, 2 clean sheets. So in official matches, we have 4 clean sheets in 6 games.
yeah, it's one of those things that, like, again, it's not broke. Don't fix it, right? But yeah, it's gonna be that one's gonna be interesting because I think he's in the next few months. I think we'll see him kind of ramp up his return. Hopefully,
He
we'll
starts
see him.
training at the end of this month.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see him. I mean, we'll definitely see him in like the Tasa games. I think those games
Yeah.
we'll see rotation.
Yep.
But again, I don't know if it's one of the. I don't think you drop a player
I think
just
Otamendi
like
has the potential of maybe taking a back seat because don't forget he's got the World Cup,
yeah.
right?
That's the
Mid-season,
thing.
that's a huge
This
lift.
year, this everything changes with the fucking World Cup in the middle of the season. Like,
Correct.
yeah, it makes things.
It's going to be tired legs. He's not young, and then there's rumors that he might leave after the World Cup to go back to Argentina, right? So
Yeah,
if I'm looking at it, I'm probably more inclined to say by the time Verissimo is ramped up and in form and ready to go, if there's anyone coming out of the 11, I'd probably be willing to bet that it's Otamendi because of those reasons, not because he's not good
right,
enough or he's not better than
right,
Morato,
right.
but because of those reasons to come out of the 11, then maybe a Morato. But again, time will tell. We also don't know how he's going to come back from the injury, right? He could
Yeah, that's the thing with. I
struggle.
mean,
You don't know. I mean, for all
it's
we know,
a
he
knee
might
injury
struggle with
is
the injury,
tricky.
and then João Vitor, right? Like we haven't even seen João Vitor. I don't know much about him. I know
Right.
Joaquim maybe follows the Brasileirão better than we do. So, Joaquim, what's your thought on João Vitor? Do you think where would you rate him in terms of who we have, and where do you think he falls? I think he'll give us at least a better opinion of what he's like, or anyone that's watching that follows the Brasileirão. I don't have enough of an opinion on him to
Yeah,
put him anywhere on the scale, unfortunately. But I've heard good things
and
about him.
we haven't even seen him at all. Like,
Correct.
we didn't see him preseason. Like, it's just
Yeah.
complete question mark at this point.
SLBS says, "What's the deal with Paulo Bernardo? How is he getting so many minutes? How is he getting so many minutes? I'm assuming so few minutes. Is there something I'm not seeing? I mean, he hasn't gotten many minutes, but I think
Comes. I
we
mean,
can. I think this is an easy one where we can say that last year we said the same thing. Again, if he wasn't a player from the Seychelles, I think he would have received a lot more criticism last year. Again, he's young. The team wasn't confident. We weren't playing well, so it makes it extremely more difficult for you to come in and make an impact. With that said, I don't think he showed enough just individually, in my opinion, to stand out. And I think he's a good example of if we have enough depth of a player that could benefit from a loan
alone.
at it to a team that he plays regularly, like not to go on
Yep.
loan and not play, right? Like that's pointless, right? But if he can go
Yep.
somewhere where he's going to play, I think he would benefit from that. I don't think he wants to take a step back and go back to the B team and be a regular there. Maybe it's an option, but yeah, he's still one guy that's a question mark for me. Bill, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
No, I completely agree. I think last year we all had kind of questions if he was up to the skill level and had the ability to be playing on the A team. I I didn't see it, but again, the circumstances around the team last year were kind of difficult for a player to come in and kind of make any kind of impact. But you would see glimpses from certain players of potential. And for him, from him, he didn't. Not that he played bad. He played very. He was very simple the way he plays, which in the midfield can be a good trait, right? Like you don't want to overcomplicate things in the midfield, but at the same time, like you want to see something extra, like be able to pick a pass from 30 yards out or be able to find that through ball to play someone in. Like we just didn't see anything from him. It seemed very get the ball, play it back or play it to the side, like very like simple and not. I don't know. It's hard to explain because he is young. but we didn't see glimpses of. I didn't see glimpses of anything, and I agree. I think he would have if we bring in the Norwegian guys coming in. If we get someone else like a Horta, I think he would benefit from the loan spell to like a mid-table team in the Portuguese league. Jay just said Chaves. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think going to a team like that,
where there's less pressure and it allows you to like play freely,
and you can play. And we're seeing it with was it Gouveia? He went to Estoril, and he's starting, and he scored over the weekend. Like he's
playing well.
He's getting playing time, and that when you're young like that, you need
important
that playing time, right?
Yep, agree. Let's run through these quickly. We're over an hour here, but we got a lot of questions here, so I just want to make sure that we got to give the people what they want. Bill, Dave says, "Does your club have a goalie issue?" I think that's an easy one. Currently, we do not. If Odysseus leaves, we do.
We potentially could.
Yeah, that's a question mark right now. That one's pending. Currently, I don't think we do, and we've all shared our opinions on Odysseus. But if he leaves, and with such a short time frame, I think we potentially do. But time will tell on that one. But Dave, if you want to send Mateus over, I'm a fan of his. He's very good at controlling the space and behind the defenders, very good with his feet. So, if you want to, give us a helping hand, I'm not going to be too upset about that. SLBS says Portuguese league is much better than the Scottish league. Come on. I mean, it is. I'm not saying that it's not, but the Portuguese league also isn't like people don't, get excited to wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning to watch the Portuguese league, right? Like that's just not the reality of it, right? Probably don't do that to watch the Scottish league either, but in comparison, if I had to weigh them both on a scale from 1 to 10, I would say competitiveness, right? 10 being the Premier League, 0 being, again, no disrespect, the Faroe Islands professional league. I would say the Scottish league is a 3, the Portuguese league is a 5.5, right? Like I don't think it's significantly better, but I think there's more quality of player because of Benfica, Sporting, Porto, and now Braga and Guimarães, right? But like I think we have more big teams, big names than the Scottish league is, right? Like most people are just going to know Celtic and Rangers, right? So I agree that it's better. Is it significant? I don't know. Joaquin says, no way. It's Emerson Royal and Rodinei from Flamengo. Dude, put Gilberto Carlos in that right there because Emerson Royal, he plays for Spurs. He's iffy. You don't know what you're going to get from him. Gilberto Carlos, man, he's an option. Elda said 30 million, no chance. I already forgot what that might be related to. Maybe Ricardo Horta transfer cost. I'm not sure.
No, I think it was who was the other Braga player?
Oh, Vitinha.
Vitinha, yeah.
I think 30 million is not cheap. Out of the equation, I think. Dude, they just sold David Carmo for 20. If he goes outside of Portugal, dude, they sold
like $10 plus like $10 for every win, right? Or something like that, whatever it was.
Porto sold Fabio Silva for what? 40?
And now
now he's kicking the can around in Belgium, and people are like, "Oh my god, he scored 4 goals in 4 games." Like, fucking talk about the Scottish league. Let's talk about the Belgian league. Fucking name me 3 teams in Belgium. Come on, serious. Joaquin says the top teams from Portugal are better than what is considered the top Scottish teams. Yes, Portuguese league has way more talented players than the Scottish one. Red Baron, from what I see from Roger, he will have to earn his spot. I agree. Jason says instantly Verissimo is our best center back when healthy. It's a decent take. Verissimo has to earn his job back. He can't be a starter as soon as he comes back. Agree. SLBS Morato says Verissimo will take months to regain his form. Or Morato stays. Verissimo will take months to regain his. I agree, right? Like, and again, we don't know how his recovery is going to be.
I think the realistic expectation for Verissimo was, I think next season is like,
or at least season. Like after the World Cup.
Right. I think to the end of the season.
As long as he doesn't have any setbacks in the recovery.
Exactly. Yeah.
Joaquin says, what about 3 at the back? Morato, Verissimo, and Otamendi together? Yeah, but I don't think
Roger
it doesn't. I don't think he's ever played with 3 at the back. He may have further back, but I don't think that style's gonna fit. And again, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it, right? I think the four at the backs fits well. He is solid. So this is our insider information on João Vitor from Coach. He is solid. I'd give him a chance for sure. He played great for Corinthians and he's young. He can be an Otamendi replacement. Verissimo will help him a lot because let's be honest, we Brazil players are kind of lazy. So when we go to Europe, we have to adapt to the workload. I mean, don't go any further. Cebolinha, right? Like, and not to say that he didn't make an effort, right? But like, I just saw earlier today that people were complaining that Benfica basically screwed Flamengo over and we gave them Cebolinha for how much they paid and he sucks, right? So like, you just never know. Like, it's a different environment. You may be good somewhere else and not so good somewhere else. Like, it's just, you don't know. So it's good to see that, people that follow him have at least some good expectations for him. We did have some good expectations for Cebolinha. It didn't pan out. Hopefully, João Vitor's. We've had some good luck with center backs, Brazilian center backs, over the years.
Yeah.
Carlos Moza, Ricardo Gomes, David Luiz, Luizão. Right. So we've had some positive luck, some fortune with Brazilian center backs at Benfica. So hopefully João Vitor adds to that list. Dave says, I do believe Vitinha and Benza each stay one more season after this one. Benza being the striker that came from Famalicão, if I'm not mistaken. Kid's crushing it right now. Both strikers press the central defenders very well and allow the wingers to find gaps, and they didn't find in Carvalhal's system. Yeah, they looked pretty good. I thought there was going to be a drop-off after Carvalhal left. I thought there was going to be a phase where Tujaaj would have to get used to the big leagues. So far, so good. It's early days. But the team definitely looks like they're playing with no handcuffs, right? Like they just go out and enjoy yourselves. And they definitely look definitely threatening and a legitimate contender, at least for that top three, the third place spot. I don't think they're ready to compete for the league, but Jason says Elton Leite is fine. I don't disagree that he's fine, but again, I think we all agreed here last season as well. Like, he's not, when you think of Benfica, do you think of a goalkeeper at the level of Elton Leite? And I was a big defender of his, right? But if Audi leaves, I think we have a problem at the goalie position. Joaquin says Porto, Benfica, and Sporting would beat Celtic and Rangers 7 out of 10 times. I'd probably say 9 out of 10.
That 7's low. Yeah, I was like, it would be a little low.
But I mean, it would be a good game. Dave says 20 no agents. I'm assuming that's in regards to Vitinha. Makes a difference, no commission. Yeah, agents take a huge chunk. And Joaquin says Mozart is a legend, a Flamengo legend. He is, and I think he's still involved with the club. I see him posting stuff all the time at Flamengo. And Flamengo's got Andrade, another former Benfica player, coaching the female team over there. I wonder how he's doing. All right, so we've run through all the questions here, but if you still have questions, keep them coming. I just want to touch on one more thing. We're not going to get to everything, but one more thing here, and I'm going to ask it to you, Bill, and to those who are watching, is we have 11 wins in 11 games with Roger Schmidt, 6 being official, 5 being preseason. And again, 17 goals scored, 2 against. In official games, 4 clean sheets. Altogether, 34 goals scored, 7 conceded, 6 clean sheets in 11 games. Right? So we have more than half of our games clean sheets. And again, take it as you will. But let's focus on the official games. So we've played Midtjylland twice. We've played Dynamo Kyiv twice. We've played Casa Pia and Aroca. And a lot of the conversation, which is normal, is we haven't played anyone good, right? And we ran into this conversation, I think last year or the year before, and Oscar had harped on it. And I get it. But I feel like we're so conditioned to look at the negative aspect of it, like, oh, we haven't played anyone good, like, and we tend to like look past the positives. Like, are we saying that Benfica is the champion already? No. But can we at least not look at it from a negative lens and say, sure, have we played a Braga? Have we played a Guimarães away? No. But have we looked good? Yes. Have we played good football? Yes. Have we played bad? Yeah, against Casapia, I don't think it was one of our better games, but we managed to win, right? And you're never going to play a whole season and play good every game. Look at Liverpool start to the season. Look at Manchester United start to the season, right? Like every team's going to go through those phases and not play well. But what lens do you look through when it comes to this? They haven't played anyone good. And those of you watching, give us your thoughts on how you look at this. Do you look at it from the they haven't played anyone good, or do you look at it from the we've played who has been put in front of us, and in those games we've done well? Have we won anything yet? No, but we look a hell of a lot better than we did last year. That's how I look at it.
I 100% agree. I mean, you have to play who is on your schedule, right? Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference if you're playing Sporting the first week or you're playing Famalicão and Casapia. You have to play whoever's put in front of you, right? And I think the biggest difference from last year is how we're playing, not the results, right? Like last year, I think we were getting the results, but we didn't look good. And there was a lot of criticism of how we were playing and everything. But I think this year, the way we're playing, the way the team looks, the style of play, like there's a lot of positives to take from these games early on. Yes, we haven't played the Sportings, the Bragas, the Portos yet, right? But again, it's a schedule. Like it's not our fault. That's the way the schedule came out, and we don't have any of these guys yet. We have to play whoever we have to play. And I think it's good to see that we can play a game, dominate a game, win comfortably. We can also play a game where a team is going to sit back, compact, and it's not going to be pretty, and we're not going to win 6-7-0, right? I mean, we have to like fight for a result, and we can also do that. Like it's very good to see that from the early on, because we're going to have plenty of like that. The majority of the games we're going to play, you're going to see 11 behind the ball, 11 inside their own half. Like you're going to have to fight for a result and try to kind of pick your points to where you can attack and go for it. And there's a lot of positives to take from early on. I hate the whole approach of, well, we haven't played anyone yet, and this is the same thing last year.
Approach, right? Like it's such a the mindset of like,
Oscar,
oh yeah, it's good, but you're gonna fall apart.
It's the realist, right? As Oscar would say, it's the realist approach. Like I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Like,
and again, like you don't want to be like, not everything is glorious and amazing, right? Again, we're 2 games into the season, into the league. We just played 4 games in qualifications to the Champions League. Like again, we're not champions. We're not the best in the world. No one's saying that, right? But like there's positives to look at, right? So like let's not look at it from the negative lens of, okay, great, yeah, like, oh, we're beating Casapia, oh, we're beating Aroca, oh, we're beating Dynamo Kyiv, who hasn't played a competitive game in X amount of time, oh, we're playing Midtjylland, who are they, right? Like it's so easy for us to take that mindset as Benfica fans, or maybe even it's a Portuguese culture, I don't know, but it's constantly talked about. I see it on social media. We haven't played anyone good. I think someone mentioned it in our WhatsApp group today. I think it was Nunu. I want to see what it looks like when we play someone good at our level. And I get it, right? Like, but like these are the games that are going to help you be ready for those games, right? Like look at Sporting Braga early in the season, right? Like, do you think that game looks the way it looked 10 games in? Probably not, right? It may have, right? But it might not, right? Because it's still early on. You're still building that fluidity. You're still building that understanding. Players still aren't in that great form. Like there's a lot of things that play into it. So it like drives me nuts when people are like, oh, we haven't played anyone good. Wait till we play someone good. Like it's like you're waiting for that negative effect. Like, yeah.
Waiting
and
for
then
the
when
cliff,
and then
someone would say.
when you play someone good and you don't win, you're like, I told you so, right? Like it's that mindset of like, I told you so. I'm waiting for that. I told you so. Joaquin says, Jason said he agrees with us. As Joaquin says, you can only evaluate from the games that you have played. Nowadays, the results is even more important. I'd rather get 3 points against an okay team and not play great than lose to a great team, but play amazingly. If you want to be a champ, you can't lose points to mid-table. 100%. I'd rather play bad and win than play amazing and lose, right? Like playing amazing soccer is great to watch. Do I want to play boring soccer? Do I want to watch boring soccer? No. But if the end result is 3 points, am I going to be frustrated that the game sucked? 100%. Am I going to be happy that the result was a win? 100%. Right. So you need to like pros and cons, but I agree, right? Like these are the games that you can't lose points, right? And like even though we haven't played a Braga, a Porto, or Sporting, we already have a point advantage to some of them.
When you look at the season in the total, like when it gets to the end, you're not losing the league in the games where you're playing Porto Sporting, right?
For the most part,
the league. Typically, you're losing the league if you're dropping points against the Famalicãos, Boavistas. Like when you're dropping points against teams you need to be winning, like that's when you lose the league. Like the games against Porto Braga and Sporting, yeah, those are going to help your campaign in winning the league. But more often than not, like if you drop points, then you're not losing the league. Like the games against all these other teams, that's where you can lose the league.
Correct. Red Baron says our team is playing much better and attractive soccer. Our defense looks solid and confident, and you can tell the fans' response to this team. I agree. The fans gotten behind it, but I will also say that I think part of the fans getting so behind the team is in part because JJ's gone. Like I feel like anyone that came after JJ, it was going to rejuvenate the fan base.
Yeah.
And it also helps that we have a coach that's very offensive minded. Right. Yeah. But I think that anyone that came after him, unless it was like a name that people hated, was going to generate a positive response from the fans because people were so against JJ. It was inevitable. All right. And last two comments here. You can only evaluate. Oh, he already. Oh, you can only evaluate the games that we played. I'd rather get 3 points. He already said that. Oh, I think he just reposted the comment, but he was just mentioning Porto Braga and Sporting. I will not accept a loss to Porto. Temos que nos fular todos dentro do campo. I can't take another loss. I agree. It's frustrating. Winning the league won't be enough. Need to beat Porto soundly. I agree, but I'll ask you this, SLBES. If I told you today that Benfica wins the league and you lose both games against Porto in the league, could you take it?
Sign me up.
Exactly. I agree. Sign me up too. I mean, yes, we want to beat them, but at the
I
want to
beat them, of course. But if we're winning the league at the end of the season, I don't go fuck.
100%. I agree with that. All right, we're 19 minutes. 4 minutes over. Typically, we want to go 60 to 75 minutes. So we're already in stoppage time. 4 minutes extra. Jason says, "Great podcast, fellas." Want to thank everyone that was in the chat. We had a lot of comments, a lot of interaction, which is what we look to do. Right. Jay says, "Great work. Share and subscribe." Right. We have an agenda that we come into it, but if you guys are on the other side asking questions, joining the conversation, it makes it more fluid. We don't have to go through the agenda, right? We want to have that conversation and make it a conversation and not just kind of go through what we want to talk about, right? We want to make sure that you guys feel heard and know that we're listening to you guys and not just, you're there and we're putting comments on the screen, but we're not really paying attention to it. And I think we got to everyone's comments and hopefully we didn't miss any. If we did, do let us know. As always, don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. We're getting close to, we just surpassed 26,000 on Facebook. We're trying to hit our first 1,000 on Instagram and on YouTube. Twitter, we're at about 1,300. So altogether, we're over 27,000 across the board, which is positive. But our goal at the beginning of the season was to hit 30,000, at least on Facebook. By the end of the season, I think we're in a good position to hit that before the end of the season for sure. SLBS says, "Good night, fellas. Have a good one, guys. Go Flamengo and Benfica." As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Tuesday, hopefully with a win over Boa Vista. That was our banana peel last season, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully that's not the case this time. Bill, as always, a pleasure. Don't forget to check us out, subscribe, like, follow, all of the above, and we'll be back next week. Viva Benfica, and have a good evening.
Later, boys.